My name is Eleanor. I'm 101 years old, and I haven't felt truly tired in years. Not the kind of tired people talk about. Not that deep, dragging feeling that stays with you all day. I still get old, of course. My body is slower. My steps are careful. But I don't feel drained. I don't wake up already exhausted. I don't move through the day feeling like I'm running out of something. And people always ask me the same question. What's your secret? They expect something complicated, a system, a routine, something they can follow exactly. But the truth is, it came down to 3 foods I never stopped eating. Not because I planned it, because they stayed with me through every stage of my life. And more importantly, my body accepted them. That's what matters. Not what sounds right, what feels right over time. The first food I eat every day is eggs. Simple. Nothing added that changes them too much. Sometimes soft, sometimes boiled, but always plain. I started eating eggs when I was young because they were easy, available. There was no thinking behind it. But over time, I noticed something. They gave me strength without making me feel heavy. I didn't feel slow after eating them. I didn't feel like I needed to sit down. I just continued. And that steady feeling stayed with me. There were years when people said eggs weren't good, that I should avoid them. So I listened for a while. I stopped, and something changed. Not dramatically, but enough. I felt less steady, more up and down. So I went back to what I knew, not out of stubbornness, because my body had already told me the truth. That's something I learned early. Advice changes, opinions change, but your body doesn't lie if you listen to it long enough. The second food I eat every day is rice. Plain, warm, sometimes with a little salt. Nothing complicated. Rice has been part of my life for as long as I can remember, not because it was considered healthy, because it was familiar, and I never saw a reason to remove it. Over the years, I noticed something about rice. It doesn't disturb the body. It doesn't create sudden changes. It doesn't leave you feeling heavy when you eat it simply. It just stays even. And that word became important to me. Even. Because energy that rises quickly falls quickly. But steady energy stays with you. And rice gave me that, quietly, without effort. The third food I eat every day is beans. Simple, cooked soft, nothing added that makes them complicated. I didn't start eating them for health. They were just part of meals. But I noticed something over time. They filled me in a way that lasted. Not heavy, not slow, just lasting. I didn't feel the need to eat again right away. I didn't feel drained a few hours later. I just stayed steady. And that became the most important thing to me. Not feeling strong for a moment, not feeling full for a while, but staying steady all day. These 3 foods didn't give me something extra. They didn't boost me. They didn't change me suddenly. They simply didn't take anything away. They didn't disturb my body. They didn't create ups and downs. They allowed me to remain the same. And over time, that made all the difference. But there is more to this, because it wasn't just what I ate. It was how I ate and how I lived around it. And that is what truly changed everything. If this feels too simple, that's because most people are looking for something more complicated than the truth. What made the difference in my life was not just those 3 foods. It was everything around them. The way I ate, the way I moved through my day, the way I allowed my body to respond instead of forcing it. Because food does not work on its own. It becomes part of a pattern. And that pattern is what shapes how you feel every single day. When I was younger, I didn't think about this. I ate when it was time, sometimes quickly, sometimes standing, sometimes while doing something else. Food was something that fit between everything, not something I gave my attention to. But as I got older, my body stopped adjusting quietly. It began telling me things more clearly. If I ate too fast, I felt it. If I ate too much, I carried it. If I ate without rest, something felt unsettled for hours. And that's when I began changing something simple. I slowed down. Not as a rule, not because someone told me to, because I could feel the difference. I sat when I ate. I gave myself time. I let the meal be the only thing I was doing. And that one change did more than I expected. Because when you slow down, your body has time to respond. It tells you when you've had enough. It tells you what feels right. But if you rush, you miss those signals completely. And over time, missing those signals creates imbalance. Not immediately, but gradually. I also stopped eating when I wasn't truly hungry. That may sound obvious, but it isn't. Many people eat because it's time, because it's routine, because food is there, not because their body is asking for it. I did that for years, without thinking. But later, I began listening more closely. Am I hungry? Or am I just following a habit? If I wasn't hungry, I waited. If I was, I ate. Simple. And that simplicity made a difference. Because the body doesn't need constant input. It needs the right input at the right time. Another thing I learned is the difference between fullness and comfort. Most people stop eating when they feel full. But fullness is not always a good feeling. It can be heavy, slow, uncomfortable. But comfort is different. Comfort is when your body feels settled, not empty, not full, just at ease. I learned to stop when I felt that, not when I couldn't eat another bite. That took time because habits are strong. But over years, I began to trust that feeling more than anything else, and it guided me better than any rule ever could. There is something else people don't talk about enough. Too much variety can confuse the body. We are told that variety is always good, and in some ways it is, but constant change is not. If you eat something different every day, your body is always adjusting, always responding, always trying to figure out what's happening. It never settles into a rhythm. I didn't live that way. I ate similar foods repeatedly. Not because I had to, because I noticed that repetition made everything easier. My body knew what to expect. It responded better. Digestion felt smoother. Energy felt steadier. There were no surprises. And as you get older, that matters more than anything. You don't want surprises. You want consistency. I also never complicated my meals. That is something I stayed with for decades. Simple foods, recognizable. Nothing layered with too many ingredients. Nothing hidden. Because when food becomes complicated, you lose clarity. You don't know what helped and what didn't. But when things are simple, your body tells you clearly, yes or no. And I trusted that over time. Another thing I noticed is this. How you feel while eating matters just as much as what you eat. If you are tense, your body is tense. If you are rushed, your body reacts that way. If you are calm, your body receives food differently. I didn't always eat in perfect conditions. Life doesn't allow that. But when I could, I chose calm. And over time, that became my habit. That calm became part of how my body expected to receive food. And that expectation matters, because the body learns patterns. It remembers, and it responds accordingly. I also didn't treat food as something to fix. Many people do. They look at food as a solution, something to correct a problem, something to improve things quickly. And that creates tension around eating, constant thinking, constant adjusting. I never lived that way. Food was not a problem. It was part of life. Simple, familiar, reliable. And that relationship made everything easier. Because I wasn't constantly searching for something better. I stayed with what worked. And what worked stayed. At 101, I don't think about food in terms of rules. I think about it in terms of feeling. What keeps me steady? What doesn't disturb me? What allows me to move through the day without effort? That is how I decide. Not based on what is popular, not based on what changes every few years, based on what has proven itself over time. And time is what matters, not short results, not quick changes. Years, decades. That is where the truth shows itself. But there is one more part, the most important part, the reason I haven't felt tired in years, and it has very little to do with the food itself. Part 3 continues. If this made you pause and think about your own habits, then something in you is already paying attention. The reason I haven't felt tired in years has very little to do with those 3 foods. They helped, yes. They gave my body something steady. But what truly changed everything was what I stopped doing. That's the part people don't expect. They want something to add, something new, something powerful. But longevity, real, lasting energy, comes from removing what drains you. Not just physically, mentally, emotionally, quietly. Every day. I began to notice something as I grew older. There were people who ate well, took care of themselves, followed every recommendation, and still they were tired. Not just at the end of the day, all the time. And I asked myself, how can that be? And the answer became clear over time. They were carrying too much, not in their hands, in their minds, in their habits, in the way they moved through life. That's what drains you, not just what you do, but how you carry it. The first thing I stopped doing was carrying everything forward. When something happened, I dealt with it. And then I let it end. That sounds simple, but it's not, because most people don't do that. They replay things, conversations, mistakes, moments that didn't go the way they wanted. They think about them again and again, and every time they do, their body reacts, again and again, as if it's happening now. That creates constant tension, constant strain, and that strain becomes exhaustion. I didn't live like that. Not perfectly, but often enough. Enough that my body wasn't reliving the same things over and over. That alone made me feel lighter. The second thing I stopped doing was rushing. Even when life was busy, I didn't move at a frantic pace. I moved steadily. I did what needed to be done, and then I stopped. I didn't carry that pace into everything. And that matters. Because when you rush, your body stays in a state of alert, always ready, always slightly tense, even when nothing is wrong. That state is exhausting, and many people live in it all the time without realizing it. I didn't, and that made my energy last. The third thing I stopped doing was reacting to everything. This one took time, because reacting feels natural. Something happens, and you respond immediately. But I learned to pause. If something upset me, I didn't react right away. I let it sit, and most of the time it passed, or it mattered less than I thought. And by not reacting, I didn't carry it. That removed a lot of unnecessary weight from my life, because reacting to everything means carrying everything, and that will drain you faster than anything else. The fourth thing I stopped doing was overthinking. I didn't try to figure everything out. I didn't analyze every situation. I didn't search for meaning in everything. I let things be simple. If something didn't need to be solved, I left it alone. That created space in my mind, and that space allowed my body to rest, because a busy mind keeps the body active, even when you're sitting still. The fifth thing I stopped doing was trying to control everything. This one is difficult because control feels like safety. If you can manage everything, nothing will go wrong. But life doesn't work that way, and trying to control everything creates tension, because things don't always go as planned. I learned to do what I could and let the rest happen. That reduced a kind of pressure I didn't even realize I was carrying. And without that pressure, my body relaxed. More often, more easily. The sixth thing I stopped doing was making my life more complicated than it needed to be. People do this without noticing. They take on too much. They say yes when they want to say no. They fill their days with things that don't really matter. And over time, they become tired, deeply tired. I kept my life simple, not empty, just simple. I did what mattered, and I let the rest go. That kept my energy from being scattered, from being pulled in too many directions. The seventh thing I stopped doing was ignoring rest. Not just sleep, real rest. Moments where nothing is happening, where nothing is being carried, where nothing needs to be solved. I allowed those moments. I didn't feel guilty about them. I didn't try to fill them. And those moments restored me more than anything else. At 101, I don't feel energetic in the way young people do, but I feel steady. And steadiness is more valuable than bursts of energy, because bursts come and go, but steadiness stays. That's what those 3 foods supported, and that's what these changes protected. My energy didn't come from something I added. It came from what I removed. The strain, the tension, the unnecessary weight. And once those things were gone, or at least reduced, my body was able to do what it was meant to do. Continue. That's all longevity is. Continuation, not perfection, not strength, just the ability to keep going. without being worn down too quickly. If I could tell you one thing, it would be this. Look at what is draining you every day, not just physically, mentally, emotionally. What are you carrying that you don't need to carry? What are you holding on to that has already passed? Because those things are what make you tired. Not your age, not your food, those things. And if you begin to let even some of them go, you will feel the difference. Not all at once, but steadily. And steady is what lasts. If this stayed with you, even for a moment, then you're already closer to understanding it than you think.